We are live.
Okay, thank you, Michael and LTV. Excuse me. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton. Pardon me. Pardon me. Welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of March 16th, 2021. This evening, we have 3 public hearings and some other business to take care of. So we will get going right away with our first scheduled public hearing. The applicant is Virginia Spinelli.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, you can't? Sorry? Oh, I heard something. Okay. The applicant is Virginia Spinelli, and the lot size and location, 20,000 square feet at 45 Ditch Plains Road, Seaside Shores, Block 604, Lot 22, map number 1518, Montauk, tax map number 300-32-5-13. The description here is to demolish the existing residence and associated structures and construct a new 1,500.
Hard time hearing.
Hey, Joel, can you do something? Mute your computer, Joel.
I'm having a hard time.
Chair, I just muted him for you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine, Joel.
Yeah. Okay, what was I up to here? Pardon me. The description is to demolish the existing residence and associated structures and construct a new 1,553 square foot 2-story residence with approximately 700 square feet of decking, porches, and walkways, and a new sanitary system within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands and outside the town's pyramid regulations. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 5 variances are required for this application. 2 variances of 58.4 feet, 63.3 feet are required from 255-4-30 of the Town Code to construct the proposed residence 41.6 feet and 36.7 feet from the freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 47.7 feet from 255-430 of the Town Code is required to construct a new sanitary system 102.3 feet from the freshwater wetlands where a 150-foot setback is required. 2 variances of 4 feet from 255-11-72D of the Town Code are required to allow the proposed residence to exceed the pyramid line by 4 feet along the northern and southern side yard lot lines and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone here is AE, elevation 13, and the secret class is type 2. And before we go to the field report here, I just want to say to the public, anyone involved in these public hearings, that what we ask you to do is to not call in for your public hearings until after I have read your public hearing into the record and we have done the field report, because there's going to be plenty of time. There's a field report and we have the applicant speak and we have the planning department speak. So please do not call in earlier than when the field report and such is going on. Otherwise, our lines get kind of logger jammed with people, and it gets too confusing. Thank you. So now we will go to the field report here. Terry, I believe, did you hand? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's the affidavit of service and posting in order, Councilman?
We have an affidavit of mailing for the 3rd of March of this year, and we have an affidavit of posting for the 3rd of March of this year. So the paperwork appears to be in order.
Thank you, Council. Okay, this is in our Montauk district. Terry, did you handle this, I believe?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. If you would, Terry, please.
Okay, well, this is the posting on the mailbox. It was properly posted and held up in that crazy little wind we had the other day. Next. Now this is a shot. I turned to the north, and it's a shot up Ditch Plains Road from the south to the north. Next. Now I turned and went the other direction. This is a shot from the property down south toward Ditch Plains Road where it curves around. Next. And then I went across the street to take a shot. Just in general, you could see the neighbor's house to the south and the neighbor's to the right. That's Sepp's Cottages. Next. Excuse me. All right, this is the gravel parking area, and behind this row of shrubs in this vicinity is where it's proposed for the new sanitary system. This is a complete redevelopment of the property. Next. Now, this is a shot down the northern property line that borders Seps. You can see the northern side of the house, and you can see shrubbery that goes pretty much along the borders on both the north and the south. We're going to take a walk through there. Next. Now I'm at the north corner. This is looking north, looking south, easterly direction. You can see the deck in the distance, and next to that deck and the stairs is where the current sanitary system of the house is. Next. Now I'm standing on the stairs that come out the back door of the property and just shooting straight down. It's a very narrow lot, subsized width, and very long. So this is a shot from that vantage point, shooting down, straight down in the middle. Next. And now this is a shot along the southern property line. The property line is about 8 feet on both sides, north and south setback. And again, you can see there's some nice shrubbery. There's some high bush blueberry and some other shrubs. As you walk along, we're going to go down toward the wetlands and toward the watercourse that's on this property. Next. This is the one gap that was in the shrubbery on the south side. There's some other debris and this couch, bench, whatever that is. It appears to me that that is on the neighboring property, not on the applicant's, but it's there, so let's show it. And next, again, you can see this drain that comes again from the southern property, and you can see it's dry right now, but water does run down through this on rainy days. It's been pretty dry for the last week or two. Next, I'm going to follow this. And now this is the other end where that's flowing into if there was water. You could see there's standing water here, not standing, but this is part of the watercourse system that Tyler describes in the TAM. Next. And this is where it says footbridge on the survey. You can see it is in disrepair. I'm not sure why they need a footbridge, but it's here, and this is what it looks like right now. Next. Now this is a shot found. This is off the applicant's property now, but again, it just shows the watercourse that runs southeasterly through that portion of Ditch Plains and out toward Otis Road, ultimately. And now I'm just going to start shooting. This is the southern view of this and off the southern part of the property. And then I'm going to turn and catch the next part, which will be completely on the applicant's property. This is the center portion. Again, you can see there's shrubbery and there's grasses. This is part of the scenic easement that is down there. And right now, everything looks pretty bare. On some of Tyler's photos, he must have taken it a different part of the year. So right now, this is the way it looks in winter, but there's some nice shrubbery, some nice trees, and continue. And now this is the northern lot line there. And again, this is part of Seps Cottages. That's on the other side of that fence. And again, you can see the grasses. Next. Now it's another shot to the north where this is a grassy area in front of that, but in that shrubbery there's yet more of the watercourse where water runs off from the Seps property to the applicant's property. Next. And you can see a little snippet of water still there on the Seps side. The part on the applicant's property right now, again, is like a little dry ditch or gully. Right now it's dry again because we haven't had the rainwater. Next. And that's a shot from directly on the side just to show that, again, when we do have the rains, the water comes and runs through the applicant's property into that watercourse. Next. And this is a shot down the northern lot line, again, just to show that. And once again, there's some nice trees and a number of nice shrubs. There are a few invasives, but there are some nice blueberries and winter berries along this also. Next. Now, this is just a shot of the northern property on the northern side of the house. And next. Now, this is a shot from on the other side of those shrubs, so you just get a better view of the front of the applicant's house. Next. And this is another shot of the neighboring house to the south. And next. Okay, this is another shot where I got a better catch of the roof line on the applicant's house behind that tree in relation to the roof lines on the Seps cottages and the neighbor to the south. And that might be it. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Very thorough. Board members, any questions on the field report? Okay, we will go to the applicant or the agent. Next, do we have Joel, I believe?
Joel is here.
Good evening, Joel. Nice to see you. I will swear you in if you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Good to hear. Go ahead, please.
So the property that you guys are looking at right now was recently before the board. Can you guys get out? Sorry, guys. Kaya, go upstairs. They haven't said a thing to me all day, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
Had been before the board previously for an extension of time to try to close out a 1984 5 building permit. So I believe the board may be familiar with the property, the Virginia Spinelli property. We were able to close out the old building permit and get a CO on the property, but now if you look at the house is an old house. It's not in the greatest of condition, and she'd like to, remove it and replace it with a new house. Reading the technical analysis memo for the project, it doesn't seem like there's, if anything, this could be, an overall benefit to the property. The fact that we're getting the sanitary system, which is on the wetland side of the house, and it's essentially just a septic ring, leaching ring in the ground into a new IAOWTS system on the landward side of the house, over 100 feet from, or just over 100 feet from the wetlands, is an overall benefit to the property. One of the things I did want to address, and I just kind of noticed it when I was rereading the TAM today, was it references that our lot coverage is going down, which it is. It's going from an existing coverage of 1,185 square feet to 1,136 square feet. And I don't know why I didn't question it when I first read that. And that's what the survey says. And that's, that where they got for the TAM. The structure of the house is only 948 square feet. It's 24 feet by 39 3/4 feet, which comes out to, I think, roughly 948 square feet. So I don't know where that other coverage it came from, and I'd like to look into that a little bit more. But I mean, at the end of the day, the coverage is not going up. And I'm hoping the fact that it might be going down by about 200 square feet. The eaves are not more than 2 feet on this house. They just barely extend past the structure itself, obviously, because the constraints of the property. We can't very much closer to the property line, and we're already asking for a pyramid variance to begin with. So again, I need to discuss that with the surveyor as to why our coverage is about 200 square feet bigger than it should be. And again, I apologize, I didn't pick up on that sooner. Beyond that, the house itself, it's an approximately, the coverage right now is 1,185 square feet. The house itself is, just under 1,200 square feet. We are proposing a house that's about 300 to 400 square foot bigger than that. So it's not a large addition by any means. We do require some pyramid variances, and unfortunately, the fact is that this is in an AE flood zone, and the first floor elevation needs to be 15 feet above sea level. So therefore, we had to bring the house up higher than it is today. The existing house does not meet the FEMA flood zone. It's pretty much at grade level. It's a slab on grade foundation. So we will be, the house will benefit to be, becoming a FEMA compliant residence. And it's an overall benefit to the property. I did speak with the planner today, Tyler Borsak, on this with regards to increasing the amount of vegetation on the property. Right now, and I apologize again that the survey doesn't show the scenic easement. I did measure the scenic easement from the back. The easternmost portion of the deck to the scenic easement line is approximately 32 feet. And we were discussing that possibly it would be kind of it's not hard, but it would be kind of a hassle to extend the scenic easement those 15 feet. but extending the vegetation line 15 feet closer to the house. And that way, or sorry, I think 17 feet. And that way the property owner would get about a 15-foot rear yard for their grandkids to run around in. And the town with an additional 17-foot buffer to the wetlands. Beyond that, if the board has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Again, I think this was a well thought out project. We reduced the footprint of the house. We're only minorly increasing the house by about 350 square feet, 400 square feet. The sanitary upgrade should more than mitigate any new house on this property at that size. For that increase in size. So, I'm open to any questions if the board has any.
Okay, Joel, could go back to the scenic easement. You said right now the scenic easement starts 32 feet east of where the present decking of the house ends?
No, the proposed decking, where the easternmost extent of the proposed decking.
Of the proposed. So that's about 15 feet closer to the wetlands than the existing. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, and then you would be willing to do a 17-foot buffer before the start of the scenic easement?
Correct. It would be 17 feet west of the existing scenic easement line.
West of the scenic easement, okay. And now the house, how many bedrooms are in it today?
I think there's 3 bedrooms right now, and there will be 3 bedrooms. I'm pretty sure it's still proposed to be a 3-bedroom house. Just double check my yep, it is proposed to be a 3-bedroom house today.
Okay, now the pyramid, I know it's a narrow lot, but is there anything else that you feel could be done to like reduce that pyramid to some
Not
degree?
much else that could be done to do the pyramid because of the AE flood zone, the fact that we're trying to get a second, to reduce the footprint, other than increasing the footprint of the house, that would increase the coverage on the property. I do know that there have been a few pyramid variances issued within this area because of the narrow lot size and to try to increase the setbacks to the wetlands by, this way by reducing the footprint. The one unique circumstance on this one is, and if you look at both the pictures, on the north lot line and the south lot line, you have, cottages which pretty much go right up to the property line. So, it's not like all things, being, equal or not equal, however you want to take it, is, you have a property to the south that probably exceeds the pyramid way more than this house is going to exceed the pyramid. And you have a property to the north that, probably exceeds the pyramid by more than what we're proposing on this one as well, too. And again, that's pre-existing non-conforming. It was built, it was built before, before the codes were enacted. It wouldn't have allowed it to be built. That in conjunction with, a few, you recently issued the 2-foot variance on 39 Hampton LLC, and then the Poley property on Brisbane, which actually that property had to be noticed. I think it was 39 Brisbane had to be noticed because of this project. They issued a 3-foot variance from pyramid in order to build, a house that would meet better setbacks to the wetlands.
Tyler, what? Oh, go ahead, Roy.
Oh, Joe, maybe on this particular pyramid issue, I mean, it looks, do you know what the plate height is from first floor to the second floor? What the plate height is? I mean, it looks like you're around 8 feet, so you're not trying. It doesn't look like you're trying to go for extra high ceilings, and therefore.
No, we don't have 9-foot ceilings in here.
So it looks like a reasonable and probably the minimal height difference from plate height.
Yeah,
correct.
Tyler could zoom in. Maybe Tyler, can you zoom in on that? There's a dimension there. What's that say?
7, 6.5.
Yeah, that's minimum per code.
7, 6.5. That's minimum per code. So I mean, you're precluded by that, I think.
Hey Joel, thanks, Roy. Hey Joel, just roughly what's the existing pyramid? What I'm asking is the existing conditions. How much are they breaking or the pyramid plane by how many feet? You're asking for 4.
I believe that the house it's a flat roofed structure, and I believe the house probably complies with pyramid. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I can go out there and measure it. But the property is 10 feet. The house is 10 feet off the 10.5 feet off the southern property line,
right.
And it's 9.5 feet at the closest point at the northern property line. So, if it's breaking the pyramid, it's only breaking the pyramid by a foot, if that. but I could definitely look into that if you'd like to know.
Mhm. No, it's not true. I thought it hit it when the roof shot. Didn't it have a little bit of a second floor when we saw the roof shot there?
Yeah, there's something up there.
When you were across the street, Terry?
It's in the back of the house, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the that's the edition that was the 1985 edition.
Yeah, Tyler's going to pull this up. Anyway, thanks, Tyler. As Tyler does that, any other questions, board members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions for Mr.
Sure.
Halsey.
Sure.
One is that can we bring that, oh, there's the roof line you were talking about.
Yeah.
Can we bring that survey back up, Tyler? So in the proposed house, in the end, we're looking at, it looks like 8'6" or 8'5" to the property line, 13 feet on the
Yeah.
other side, something like that.
Mhm.
House. So one of the things brought up in the TAM was what to do with any fill that winds up being part of the excavation might be to be stored. And I would suggest it would make me feel a lot better if I knew that the construction protocols would allow for removal of some of that, or to explain to us how it was going to be stored so that it was not out. First of all, it would have to be out to the front of the house, because I don't think you're going to pass by the house with existing vegetation once the foundation is in, the pilings are in.
But it's piling, so how much excavation is there gonna be?
Yeah, well, I know
Oh, yeah.
that, but it is brought up in the TAM to wonder about the sensitive site. It will not be able to be stored to the rear of the construction. And to the front, there's a limited amount of material there. So it's not, I'm not looking necessarily for a cut and fill, but I'm wondering if we think the kind of excavation that might happen here is going to require us to store any material for any length of time.
Well, it might appear that from the demolition of the existing house, you'll be importing fill.
Yeah, well, that's a
If
good
there's a
point.
basement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second thing is I have a little concern about the pilings are, of course, an excellent idea from a construction point of view, but I think the pilings will be driven within 15 feet of Sep's house on the one side. It's not the cottage, I think it's the residence. And the house to the south is a little further away. I guess there's 15 pilings going 15 feet in the ground. So we're talking about mechanically installing those. So the amount of collateral vibration, that effect it might have there, I have a little concern about that. I think it's necessary. I guess I haven't considered helicals as a possible alternative to that. And what do we do about mitigating that kind of problem with your relationship to the immediate neighbor? It's a well thought out plan for the house, I think, given the limited amount of additional space and footprint you're adding. But I do have a little concern about this whole mechanism of getting the pilings in the ground and what it might mean for the two houses. Everything is very, very close. This is a 50 by 400 lot. And so most of what you see when you visit the site is really in the first 25% of the property, 30% of the property. Everything else gives way to wetlands. So it's a very tight spot. And I think I have a little concern about that. So I guess in the construction protocols, I'd just like to know what we think is going to happen.
So to that point, sorry to interrupt. To that point, one of the things I could do is I could look into seeing what they did on 39 Hampton, because I know that lot was a little bit wider. I think that lot was 75 feet, but they did have piling foundations on there. It was a vacant lot. It was a town-owned vacant lot on the east side, but an approved lot on the west side. Sorry, the east side, and town-owned on the west side. That could be something, if that could be something that could be, if the board chooses to approve this application, if it could be written into the determination, a protocol for how the foundation will be installed, to be approved by the zoning board of appeals prior to the issuance of a building permit, rather than delaying any kind of, closing the hearing for, any kind of protocol for the piling foundation, that'd be great.
Tyler, could you go to the foundation plan Tyler, please? The plan, the foundation plan, I think it's. Yeah, one more. I thought I saw a sheet with the piling.
Right there.
Oh, it's right there. That's, yeah. Yeah, so Ed, I used to do this stuff. I think what, and Roy knows, I would expect that they would come in here and auger these things down about 8 or 10 feet and then pound drive the rest to get the compression. I agree with you, Ed. I think it would be great to have that, and I'm fine with what Joel is recommending. But I would think this would be done in 2 days, the whole thing. That's just my guess. But I think you're right. It's a tight situation. I think would be good to have that protocol on the file, and we have us take a look at that.
I think, Mr. Chair, one of the things there's a concern whenever you drive pilings is that proper notification of neighbors takes place. Part of the protocol would be that they're made aware that on a given 2-day period, this amount of work is going to go on, and that potential damage to your personal possessions is possible. And I think that allowing that is certainly good for the relationship in the neighborhood, but also to protect their interest. And so this is a fair amount of pounding. Even when you auger in the first 6 or 7 feet, they're going to go in a minimum of 15 feet. There's 15 pilings. That's a number of spots here.
No, I completely agree. And we all know that down in Amagansett, there was that issue on Marine Boulevard where neighbors were calling in. There was a lot of vibration and sending videos of their things kind of rattling and shaking. So you make a good point, Ed.
And it's a very, very tight spot. So.
Any other questions for Joel? Terry?
Just another one in the TAM where Tyler asked if the applicants explored an alternative leaching system, not requiring a Sandwick system. Can you comment?
Yes, I can address that. The sanitary engineer, I spoke with the sanitary engineer about this a few times for a while about this. The fact is the percolation of the soils here, it's a very clay soil here. The percolation is very bad in this area. So in order to do a shallow drain field, you would need a lot more space. The fact that the lot's only 50 feet wide, it kind of precludes that space. The shallow drain field also doesn't allow you to put a parking area over any part of the force ejection or the drain field. So between allowing us to, a space for parking for the cars and a size of a leaching area, no other the wicking system was the only thing we could propose.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, before we go to the planning department, any questions? Okay, let's hear from Tyler. Tyler, good evening, Tyler.
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the planning department.
I'll go ahead and swear you in, Tyler. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So this parcel is located on the east side of Dish Plains Road in Montauk. The application is in order to demolish the existing residence and construct a new 2-story residence with decking, porches, and new sanitary system. Overall, the project appears to be fairly reasonable redevelopment of the property with a similarly sized residence and new sanitary system. While the setbacks for the residence is being reduced from the wetlands, this is a result of relocating the sanitary system from the northeastern side of the residence to the southwestern side along the road frontage, which should help to reduce impacts from the sanitary system even further than just an upgrade in place. Ultimately, the decrease in the setback proposed for the residence is being offset by the increase in setbacks for the sanitary system, swapping one for the other. You've discussed some of the concerns that we had with the sanitary system. Sandwick does require a lot of excavation. Obviously, they have to go down like 22 feet in this case. But if there's no reasonable alternatives other than that, then it sort of is what it is in this case. If there's no other options, there's no other options. It's worth noting that the IA treatment tank does not meet the standard 2-foot separation to groundwater and is slightly within the groundwater table. However, leaching structures all the leaching structures themselves all meet the standard 2-foot separation. The board has allowed the tanks themselves in the past, as long as they're properly engineered designs, which this one does appear to be. They account for buoyancy and all that on the sanitary plan. So it does appear to be something that's worth excluding from the 2-foot separation requirement in the conditions that are normally required. The proposed improvements should be fairly similar to the existing improvements, aside from moving the house further back on the property in order to gain the better setbacks for the sanitary system. The lot coverage is proposed to decrease slightly. And my guess, as far as the numbers being strange, is that the deck at the front of the house is a covered deck because there's a second-story deck above it, and maybe they counted that towards building coverage. since it's like a covered porch almost. So that's my only guess as to where that discrepancy comes from. The house itself is like 940 square foot roughly. And then that extra few hundred square feet of deck probably is where that building coverage comes from. That was questioned. And the total lot coverage is proposing to increase by 170 square feet. So both fairly minor changes. Additionally, the existing residence to be removed is a single story, while the proposed residence is 2 stories, increasing the gross floor area of the residence more significantly. It appears that the scenic easement over the rear of the property, including the wetlands within jurisdiction prior to certificate of occupancy being issued on the parcel in 2018. The survey should be updated to reflect that easement, and the board should consider revegetation, which the applicants seem to be okay with. I'll pull up the sketch that we drew, which the applicants seem to be mostly okay with a minor change, and I think we're okay with that. Essentially, it'd be knocking off a few feet off and essentially creating a straight line back here somewhere, which should be roughly the same benefit. We just sort of took a round number when we were looking at our.
So the scenic easement on that includes the water course?
Yeah, let me pull up is it on the, let me see, let me pull up a survey that has it. Give me one moment.
Do we have a more recent survey that has it, or?
Here's the CO for the property. You can see the scenic easement on there at that point in time. So it's just back, essentially those wetlands would come up and over here. So you can see sort of where it would end on this one. It would be like.
Okay, where's the little footbridge?
That would be like back here.
It's back there?
Back in there, yeah. So that front corner of the wetlands though is up here. And that's that corner there. So the easement's essentially like right in here somewhere. Mm-hmm. So they'd be re-vegging all that easement and then a little bit of an extra buffer to offset the increased coverage and also to help just preserve those wetlands a little bit more.
And is that re-veg something that would not be mowed? The species you're going to be approving?
Yeah. Well, it'll be a standard revegetation. I'm sure we can come to something prior to a building permit being issued.
Now, where that re-veg comes out in that little square on the right side, is that where that blank area was that we saw in the photos?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll help obviously protect those wetlands, reduce runoff, and the applicants seem to be okay with the vast majority of it, and it's a minor discrepancy that we don't have an issue with. Mm-hmm. Okay. And as far as the pyramid is concerned, the natural resources regulations do call for at times reducing dimensional regulations in other places in order to maintain better wetland setbacks. And this is one of those cases where it seems like it may be leaning in that direction. Mm-hmm. Creating a 2-story residence rather than a larger 1-story residence in order to maintain a better wetland setback sort of forces them into a pyramid variance. So it's sort of a question for the board, obviously, but the code does suggest that sort of idea when looking at these applications. Other than that, I can answer any questions that you might have.
Do you know what the current GFA is on it?
I think if the CEO has it listed. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Well, let's see.
I can't see
it does
that.
not.
I can't read
It doesn't list a GFA. I'm not certain on the current gross.
You could probably do it with your little tool there, but anyway.
Yeah,
it's approximately about 1,185 square feet right now.
Okay. And what's your total with the second, Joel?
1553, I think.
Right.
Yeah, 1553.
And the second floor, I guess you count from, I believe we're going with anything above 5 feet, I believe, is GFA, 5-foot header, I believe.
Correct. Yes. Anything above 5 feet, exterior wall to exterior wall.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler?
I don't know for Tyler or the little footbridge that is demolished right now. Is there a necessity for that? Answer that, Joel.
I think a while ago when the owner was younger and the parents were still alive, I think they explored the property a little bit more often, and that footbridge did cross that water course. Obviously, the grandkids are all small now. They're not really into that. So I'd imagine that the footbridge hasn't been maintained since I'd say probably 20 years. So that's probably just fallen into disrepair for that. But again, I think the footbridge was just so back in the day, they were able to access the back of their property and explore when they were kids.
But they wanted to restore it?
I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay. Mike, do we have anyone on the line here? Mike from LTV?
No, we do not have any callers at this time.
Okay. Okay. If there aren't any more questions, Terry, do you want to close this out?
All right. Is Joel going to submit? You're going to submit the survey with an updated survey with the scenic easement, Joel? Anything we can expect before the record closes?
I wasn't planning on it, but did you want an updated survey with the scenic easement?
I think I'd like something showing everything. Yeah.
Okay. Could that be conditioned on the building permit rather than holding? Well, I mean, I guess I still have I've a few weeks before the record has to close anyway.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I forgot about that. That's a help. So yeah, I'll submit a new survey and I'll check the coverage on it and the scenic easement.
Okay. And what about the construction protocol that was discussed?
Regarding the piling foundation?
Yeah.
I'll see what I can get on that. I don't know if I can get anything right away on that, but if if I can't, I'd love it to, to either that be conditioned on the building permit if possible.
Yeah, and I think you should, I know you listened to Ed's comments. I think it would be good if it include what Ed discussed, Joel, about the neighbors and notification, et cetera.
Okay, notifying neighbors. Okay. And I guess I should find a professional. I mean, would that have to extend beyond the neighbors that had to be noticed for the public hearing, or?
I would think that the adjacent neighbors, when you Ed,
adjacent neighbors.
Yeah, adjacent neighbors, and I think I think it may seem like only a courtesy, Joel, but I think it's a
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, Chair, if I may interrupt. There is a caller at this time. It might be the applicant.
Okay, if you can check it out, it might be for the next hearing.
Sure. The last 4 digits of this phone number are 2936. I'll unmute that caller now. Hello, caller. You're live with the town ZBA.
Yes, hi. I'm Virginia Spinelli. I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk about my property, and I just wanted to call in and make a few comments about some things.
Okay, Virginia.
My mom and dad owned this house from 1962, and that
Virginia.
Hey,
Mike.
That is now in shambles.
Hold on, Mike. You have to mute her.
Virginia. Virginia.
Mike.
I have muted
Virginia.
Very into his gardens in the back.
Virginia. Hello, Virginia. You've got to stop. This is the chairman. I've got to swear you in, so you and then you can repeat. But we can't take comments unless you're an attorney. If you're not an attorney, I have to swear you in. So unmute her, please. And
yes,
Virginia.
Just a second. I'm unmuting her now.
Okay. I assume you heard me. So can you raise your right hand and repeat or answer this? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Now you can start.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted you to know that when my father built that footbridge back in the 70s, I believe, it was basically for beautification of what he called his Japanese garden in the back, where my mom and dad used to sit and spend many, many afternoons, I should say, with cocktails and everything. But it became of no value anymore because there was nowhere really to go. The ground became overrun. So the question that someone proposed was the footbridge going to be rebuilt no, it's not going to be rebuilt because it's a path that leads to nowhere, unfortunately. So I just wanted to clarify that point for everyone.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that and appreciate you calling in. Any other comments? Otherwise, we can close out your meeting.
Okay, I'm done. That's it. Thank you
Okay.
very much for your attention to everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Terry, you want to make a motion, please?
Yes, so the matter of Virginia Spinelli at 45 Ditch Plains Road in Montauk, tax map 300-032-05-13. Make a motion to close the public hearing and to leave the written record open until 2 weeks after this meeting transcript is posted on the website, and for the agent to submit the construction protocol and the survey indicating the scenic easement and the re-veg.
Second.
Concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well.
Submit the re-veg? What re-veg?
Well, show the area of the re-veg.
The area.
Oh, okay. I think you meant the plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think, council, we're all good, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you, Joel, and thank you.
Yes, good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you, Terry. And Tyler, thanks for your work on this. We'll move on. Next, we have William and Christa Beckert at is the name of the applicant, and the lot size and location 15,484 square feet at 21 Chapel Lane, Barnes Landing, Section 1, Block 4, lots 20, 23, map number 1935, Amagansett. This is the Amagansett School District, tax map number 300-103-6-29. The description here is to construct an approximately 47 square foot, one-story addition to allow an existing 443 square foot deck addition to remain, and to relocate and allow a 100 square foot shed to remain on a parcel of land within jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of 63.6 feet, 56.3 feet, and 36 feet are required from 255-4-30 of the Town Code to allow the existing decking to remain 36.4 feet, relocated shed to remain 43.7 feet, and to construct the one-story addition 64 feet from the freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone is X. The secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting? Excuse me.
An affidavit that the mailings were done on the 5th of March, and an affidavit also that the postings were done on the 5th of March. So the paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you. This is in my Amagansett. This is in my district. And I did the field report here. And before I do the field report, I want to make note again, if there is anyone calling into LTV that is not pertaining to the Beckert, to this particular public hearing, if you could please hang up the phone and call back later on after we've gone through and gotten started with the next Kathleen Langen application.
Chair, could you just clarify that this is actually located in Springs?
Sure, yeah, this is, as I said, it's the Amagansett School District, and that's how it got listed on the notice that way. This is actually in Springs. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Okay, this is my, thank you, Tyler. This is my field report. You can see it was properly noticed. Everything was fine. This is a front, pardon me, from Chapel Lane, looking at the front of the house. On the left side, you see kind of the jungle gym, the play and the slide, and you can see some of the accessory structures in that back behind in the backyard in this photo. Next, Tyler. Excuse me. Now I've walked over to the side, and again, I'm taking a shot of the backyard. You see the side of the house right there. The slide, the jungle gym, the playhouse, and the accessory structures. Next slide, please, Tyler. Then I walked through and just took a closer shot of those 3 structures, and you see where the yard ends there. Next, please, Tyler. And then I've turn to the right as I walk towards those. I'm kind of over by the slide right now, looking back at the house and the deck in question this evening. It's interesting to note, if you look on the left side of the screen, you see how the neighbor's property, the woodlands come right up, and I take a picture later on, the woodlands on the neighboring property straight behind this photo in the background. They come right about to the center of the deck here in question, just for your information. Next slide, please. And again, you can see what I was just talking about. You see the fence there. That fence of the neighbor aligns again with about the center between the house and this side of the deck, where the little play table is. That side. Again, this is just a shot just to show you the corner in question. That really is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? But that's the closest to the wetlands, closest point to the wetlands of the deck that was built there. Next, please, Tyler. Now I've gone back to the line of the yard there, and I'm looking back. You see the jungle, the playhouse on the left, and the accessory structures right there, just to give you a sense of the woodlands and the line of it right there. Next, please, Tyler. Again, I turned 180 degrees to show you again how the woodland comes up to that point with the neighbors right there. That maybe, no, I think I have one more. Yeah, then I just turned again 90 degrees back towards the street. You see that kind of modern houses across the street. And that's just that side of the residence and a little portion of the deck to the right that you see. I think that's it. Any questions on the field report? No? Okay. Okay, let's go to the applicants or the applicant's agent.
Good evening, Chairman Whelan. You can swear me in.
Hi, Britton. Good evening, Britton. Yes, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Nice to see you. Go ahead, please.
You as well. Good evening, Chairman Whelan, members of the board. I'm Britton Bistrian of 21 Napeek Harbor Road, Amagansett. I'm here representing Christa and William Beckert, the owners of the house at 21 Chapel Lane in Springs. Bill is here with me this evening. And so if there's any questions that you want to direct at him, he's available. Otherwise, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the project. We're here this evening requesting a natural resources special permit and variance relief for a very small, modest addition to the existing residence and the legalization of an existing uncovered rear deck. Can I just confirm that the board has, I can't see the date on that survey, that the survey dated last revised March 27th?
What?
Yes.
March 27th. Yep.
That's the correct document.
Thank you.
My client purchased the property 13 years ago in May of 2008, and the initial application was submitted to the zoning board in 2018. The house was constructed in 1988. The scenic easement was part of that construction. It appeared before the zoning board and was approved with everything that was initially proposed. The house is modest. It's 1,376 square feet. It's a year-round residence to a local hardworking family of 4. The initial project, which I didn't file the initial documents, had a second addition of 160 square feet and legalization of the second shed. When the Beckerts came to me, I sort of took an overview, looked at the property, looked at the wetlands, looked at the encumbrances, and I said to them, you tell me what your bare minimum is here, and that's what we really need to go with. So the bare minimum turned out to be a 47 square foot modest addition. It's under a covered porch at the rear of the residence, would be the northwest. You can see it on the survey.
Yeah.
It's basically to make the kitchen function better. This has that sort of typical 80s design. And I remember from architecture school, never design in the deadly diagonal. It's a deadly diagonal, and it's really to square off that corner, make it so that you can have kitchen cabinets and have a little bit of storage. The kitchen is very, very tight currently. There's no building coverage increase with this proposed addition because it does fall underneath a porch, and actually there's a building coverage decrease. The net result, because we'd be removing the shed, and so it would be a 77 square foot decrease, even though we're adding that 47 square feet. The GFA of the residence after the addition will still be modest at 1423 square feet, where the code would permit a 2,946 square foot of GFA, which is more than double what we're proposing here. In regards to the deck, oftentimes in the zoning board, we say that people who live on the ocean or on the water, they always sort of are entitled to some sort of outdoor living space that looks at the natural feature. That's why they purchased a house on that. And in this regard, I think, we all live in our backyards, and there's something intrinsically that seems as of right to be able to have some outdoor living area for dining, for, as you saw, there was children's playthings on the deck, to get kids off the grass, to, not have to deal with ticks or all those things. And this is a pretty modest living space. It's also the only outdoor improved space on the property. It's 469 square feet. It falls on top of a patio that was covered under a CO that was 108 square feet. So the net is, 351 square feet increase. And when I spoke with Bill about, what kind of mitigation can we offer? Because the back deck was really, he said, this is the bare minimum. We need this space. And so what we came up with together was to say, well, we're asking for this 469 square feet of decking to be blessed. How about we offer 469 square feet of revegetation? And if you look at the northwest corner of the lot, there is an area that's sort of just south of the scenic easement behind the sheds. And that triangle area turns out to be almost exactly 469 square feet. So I had submitted to the file a document that was just a hand sketch with some native species and a proposed revegetation of 469 to mitigate that variance. And just to sort of put a price tag to that, that's a $5,000 expenditure there. So it's not all that much less than the actual construction of the deck. The Beckerts did build this deck themselves. And also relating to the sheds, we did decide to, we could live without one shed. There is no basement in this house. It's only a crawl space. So there's no storage under the house, and there's no attic in the house because of the design. So storage is at a premium, hence why there's two sheds. We did decide that we could sacrifice one of them. The other shed, I don't believe requires a variance because it was an existing shed and it's being moved onto its existing location that was covered under the 2008 CO.
I'm sorry, say that again. Yeah, in the 2008 CO, it's already where you show it as proposed relocation?
It's where we're showing it to be relocated. And that was to alleviate the need for a variance.
Okay.
So in summation, this project is incredibly small. It's tasteful. It's harmonious with the property and the neighborhood. It's the bare minimum to meet the client's needs. It's been cut, in a third since the initial filing. I can't imagine that an argument can be made that an addition that could be made any smaller than 47 square feet, and that the residence is not entitled to some sort of outdoor improved space, living space, and an uncovered deck. I also believe that we've submitted some mitigation to balance these variances. And other than that, Bill and I both stand to answer any of the board's comments or questions.
Okay, maybe I'll start off, if I may. So Britton, did the Beckerts build this house?
They did not. They purchased it
No.
in 2008. The house was built in 1988.
Oh, okay. Oh, I missed that. They purchased it in 2008. Okay. And they built the deck, and the shed for some reason was by the previous owners was not put where it was supposed to. It was put in the back where it is now, correct?
The shed was moved to the back, and it was, under the, oftentimes it's like the urban legend, the sort of thing, you leave one wall standing. I always hear people say, well, I can move a shed anywhere as long as it's 10 feet from a property line. For some reason, that's prevalent. They weren't aware that it needed to be permitted to be moved. So we're putting it back in the location that it was covered under the CO.
Okay, all right, that's all good. Yeah, I guess I don't know if Tyler has a sketch of proposed re-veg, but
Yeah, he does.
personally, the reason I made a point of where the neighbor's woodland comes up, you see the fence on the survey. You can see where the neighbor's maybe Tyler, you can put your cursor on the fence I'm mentioning. Well, we get settled first. Take your time, get that ready. Thank you. That's great. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's great. So Tyler, yeah, there's a cursor. Thanks, Tyler. So you see that's how far the woodlands come back on the neighboring property. I mean, personally, I completely agree with the planning department sketch on the left, I believe. Is that the planning department sketch, Tyler, correct? On the left?
That's correct.
Yeah. And I don't know if a woodland, a re-veg, Britton, I know these things are costly, but I would personally be fine with a temporary fence going in or something and letting it naturally revegetate itself. Maybe there's just one row of some kind of low shrubbery that would be the only purchase, and to keep it from being mowed. But considering, I mean, we're 36 feet here from the line of wetlands with that deck. You know, if we had come before us, I highly doubt that this board would have approved that deck with a 36-foot setback. We just denied one last week, as a matter of fact. But so that's kind of my point. I understand the application. I understand their needs, but I don't think it'd be too costly. And I just completely agree with the planning department's analysis on the left. And I'll open it up to anyone else on the board, please. Any questions or comments, board members?
Do we know the difference in square footage of the re-veg from Tyler's sketch to what the applicant has proposed?
Well, can I just ask a question? If you look
Sure.
at the re-veg that I did and the re-veg that's on the left, there's
Yeah.
a whole area to the area that I did doesn't look like it's revegetated, so it wouldn't even be continuous with the scenic easement or the wetlands. I don't really understand that concept.
No,
It's
I
cleared-
would want the
It's cleared
fence.
behind it.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that. I'm sorry. I should say the extent. Yeah, I don't know why that. Tyler, maybe you can explain why you did it that way.
This is the clearing line here.
Oh, that is a clearing line.
Yeah. That the edge of this.
Oh, yeah, the fence, that's a fence. Yeah, it is a clearing line from my
That's the clearing
photos
line right
too.
there, yeah.
Yeah. Right,
I can
right.
measure the sizes if you want to.
Yeah, and actually that you've just filled in that clearing line on yours, Britton. You know, you filled that in. That is already vegetated back there. If you look at my pictures, I mean, it's basically just, you know, oak leaves. There's not much understory at maybe that one area, but that's my comment. That would make me feel a lot better about this application, I have to tell you. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tyler, for doing that. That's great. Well, Tyler's came to about 998, so just about 1,000 square feet is in Tyler's. As opposed to, it looks like what, 373, Tyler?
Approximately 380, we'll say.
Yeah.
It was intended to be the square footage is written above it if it's
Yeah, this is a rough, it's a
diagrammatic.
rough estimate, yeah.
It was meant to be
Well-
469. That's what
Yeah.
the
Right.
It's not a
And
perfect.
it's still
measure.
allowing a backyard and a nice play yard on the side. Board members, any comments or questions for Britton?
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, your comment that seems pertinent here is it possible for the client not to take, or the applicant not to take on additional expense if we establish that that's a non-mode zone and we let it come back to native state by putting in approximately what they would have done to re-veg what they proposed on their own, and yet encompass more areas so we have a greater, buffer to the wetlands.
That's exactly right. Use that money to buy some.
Use that money to do that and not think of, maybe make a proposal for a re-veg plan that is not as intense as some, but still allows for that to naturally come back into
Yes.
state of natural environment. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good proposal, and I think that it's one that perhaps you could structure in a way that's not going to be any more expensive to the applicant than what he already proposed to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed.
I don't know, it's still a very large variance, being 36.4 feet from the
It is. It
wetland.
is. Yeah.
What about, is there a potential to cut that back partially, the decking, and then do some of the decking, bring it around the corner the way Tyler was suggesting, but cutting it back from the wetlands?
The desire is not to have that side of the house is the master bedroom. It's not somewhere where you want to be sitting on a deck. That's definitely not their desire. And, you know, not to say that you shouldn't recognize that it's already built, but that's another construction project. I can't imagine that actually is better for the wetlands. We'd be happy just keeping what we proposed or what exists.
And what about the re-veg idea, Britton?
I mean, that's a significant amount of revegetation, you know, 1,000 square feet. You know, that's $10,000. That's not
No, but
nothing.
I don't think you were listening. I don't think you
No,
were
I
listening,
heard
Jeff.
it about the passive regrowth and maybe half of what would be required. I just think it makes a lot of, you know, this is a pretty small backyard. It makes, you know, anything beyond the deck pretty unusable. So,
Well, it's a big variance, Brittany, you know, from your experience. 36 feet is quite on 100 feet. That's a big variance. I just to reiterate that. You know, you can do what you want. We'll make
Yeah,
our ruling on
we
this.
can
We can just rule on the
we can
application.
make the decision based on the information we have.
Right.
I guess I would be okay with the revegetation square footage. I'd like to look at that area, the area that I noted, closer to the scenic easement. Maybe we could shift a couple hundred square feet back there. I mean, if you want to do the 950 or whatever, I'm sorry, Tyler, I forgot the number, 998. We could commit to 998 and maybe you and I could work out exactly the shape of it.
Well, just so you know, what we're interested in, and again, we're not going to barter here. That's not our intent. We're just throwing this out there. But just so you know, we're interested in the area that Tyler has shaded in green, all the area that you've post-shaded, all that area that's back there already behind the fence. That's already not cleared. We're fine with just completely leaving that alone. It's not worth going. That's not our concern. Okay, our concern is getting a buffer.
Just to clarify my point, the area, I know it's denoted as uncleared, but it's not very clear. I mean, it could use some revitalization. So that's fine. We'll agree.
It's still fine. If it has what Tyler, the planning department has proposed, this area in front of it, it's naturally going to come back. And the oak leaves and all, it's not lawn, it's not, so anyway, I think you understand me.
So just to be clear, are we saying that we fence off the area and let it grow back naturally, just a no-mow zone, or is there not a physical barrier?
The physical barrier would be using the $5,000 that you mentioned to buy a row of low bush, something that gives you kind of a row along the line of Tyler's drawing there and impedes people, if the house is sold or rented or whatever, it impedes lawn mowing from occurring, and then that would be left to go back. You can work with Tyler, maybe on how the 5,000 is spent, but you know, maybe there is something put in the green area. But I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. But what I'm mostly concerned with is the line that the planning department, and it's very easy because that's a mark on the survey. You can see where the scenic easement makes a jog. That point there, parallel to the back property line, the 120.11. That's what concerns me. And you can do what you want.
We'll accept the narrative and the details that you've given as a mitigation for the variances.
Now on Tyler's drawing too, the scenic easement looks like it's larger than on the Britton's, I guess, drawing that they sent in.
No.
Those green lines that are going
I
across.
don't think so.
No, they're the same.
I think they're the same, yeah.
It's the same survey. He just drew over the survey. Terry, you know.
Okay, I guess the lines.
It might be a larger scale. He might have it scaled.
I can't see the lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's too faint. Okay.
Okay. Let's hear from the planning department now.
Good evening, Tyler Borzak again for the planning department.
Good evening, Tyler. Again.
So this parcel is located on the north side of Chapel Lane in Springs. It borders several town-owned properties to the north, which contains significant freshwater wetlands. The application is in order to construct a small one-story addition and also to allow an existing deck addition to remain and to relocate and permit a non-conforming shed. An additional shed will also be removed from the property. This property and the surrounding wetlands are recognized as significant coastal fish and wildlife area as part of the Fresh Pond Bell Estate wetland of the local waterfront revitalization program. The parcel is within jurisdiction of a pristine freshwater wetland located just to the north. These wetlands contain highly diverse woody and herbaceous vegetation. The wetlands within jurisdiction constitute an integral part of their natural environment, and more specifically, the hydraulic system. In addition to diversifying the landscape, these wetlands play a significant role in the storage of water, flood control, and the maintenance of water quality. Improvements on this property have implications beyond the limits of the parcel, as the wetlands are within jurisdiction are part of the freshwater wetland system, which is susceptible to cumulative impacts from development throughout the entire surrounding area. Overall, the proposed project is fairly modest in scale, with only a 47 square foot addition to the residence, which is proposed to take place over an already improved porch area. The proposal is in order to add additional space to the existing kitchen in the house. While the variance required for this addition is fairly significant, the size of the addition coupled with the improvement taking place over an existing porch makes the impacts from the proposed variance minimal, and the variance is more in keeping with the board's previous approvals on this property and in the area in general. The property is also currently improved with 2 existing sheds, neither of which have received ZBA approvals in the past. The applicants are proposing to remove one of the sheds entirely and relocate the second shed to a more conforming location to the northwest of the existing residence. The shed is proposed to be set back 43.7 feet from the edge of wetlands to the north. It's our understanding that even though there was a shed shown on the 2008 survey in the same location, removing that shed or relocating it essentially removed the pre-existing nature of it. So it still would require the variance. Whether it meets the variance standards is entirely differently. But we believe that it still does require the variance. And it's probably best to keep it and to discuss that variance as is. Once that shed was removed, it sort of lost that. If they were proposing to reconstruct it and it was still in that location, that would be a different story. But once it was removed, it sort of lost its pre-existing nature. The planning department does recommend moving it slightly further on the property in order to increase the setbacks as much as we can, given the value of these wetlands in this area, in order to reduce impacts from runoff and just increase setbacks wherever we can. We feel that better meets the variance standards. The existing decking addition is proposed to remain 36.4 feet from the edge of wetlands, partially over where an existing slate patio existed at the time of the last CO. The decking appears to have been constructed sometime between the 2008 certificate of occupancy and 2010 aerial images. The planning department, similarly to the proposed shed, recommends changing the decking to increase setbacks and decrease impacts the decking will have on the wetlands. Moving the decking or a majority of it to the east side of the residence to the east side of the existing decking will help to reduce impacts while retaining the same use of the proposed decking. The removal of the existing slate patio at the north of the residence, coupled with construction of the proposed decking to the east of the residence, will help to increase conformity with regards to setbacks to the edge of wetlands. The decking and the sheds do not appear to meet the variance standards as proposed. The current existing and proposed locations, these structures require substantial variances. The structures currently have and will have an adverse impact on the surrounding wetlands through increased, Okay, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Through increased runoff. Oh, that's why.
Well, we can hear you anyway, Tyler.
Yeah, sorry. That was.
Oh, there you go.
It decided to go to sleep. So the structures currently have and will have an adverse impact on the surrounding wetlands through increased runoff, which could be further mitigated through increasing those setbacks further on the property. And the variances are self-created difficulties. As mitigation for the increased coverage in impermeable surfaces, the applicants appear to have partially agreed to a revegetation of the portion of the yard, as we've already discussed. And I don't know if we need to speak at length about that. we suggested a slightly larger revegetation. We would be concerned with doing like a partial revegetation and allowing it to come back naturally, because that does open the door for invasives to come in. Obviously, it's up to the board, but we would suggest a full revegetation. These wetlands are very important. They do connect to fresh pond eventually. Increasing that buffer is probably one of the more important things that could be done on the parcel to increase conformity. While it won't meet the 50-foot, clearing setback, increasing it as much as possible is probably one of our main concerns on this parcel. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, Tyler, what's the setback, the change in the variance, if from the suggested alternate location for the shed?
That would be roughly.
That's the deck.
Oh, for the shed, Tyler.
Sorry,
The shed, where you have possible alternate.
Right.
I froze it.
location.
It's gonna be probably like it's 64 feet to the corner of the house, so it'll be very similar. 65 feet roughly to the edge of wetlands versus 43 feet.
I'm sorry, 55 or 65?
65.
65.
I'll give you a number. And again, this is just a rough number. 72, it says from there.
Yeah.
72.
Okay, any, excuse me, any questions for Tyler, board members?
Tyler, about this revegetation, we kicked it around a little bit, and you've made the suggestion that invasives could be a problem if it's under re-vegged. You see an alternative in that? Is it something that you could discuss with the applicant? I mean, what about self-pollinators? Is there some way in which we could offer up an alternative that might be acceptable to the planning board, but not require quite as an intense re-veg? Or do you not think that is an option?
I mean, if the board wanted to do something like that, we'd certainly work something out. We would just suggest, a standard revegetation. But if the board felt otherwise, certainly we would work to accommodate that.
Yeah, I think if you could, and Ed, thank you for your comment. I agree. If you could work with Brittany, if she's amenable, where you would take that $5,000 number we're using and intersperse what you both think kind of makes sense. The key here is, again, not to have the invasives, and also to basically have a real area of demarcation between the lawn and the natural woodland.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Well, our concern would be obviously giving an avenue for invasives.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our concern.
Board members, any questions for Tyler? Okay, seeing none. Mike, LTV, do we have anyone on the line here?
No, Chair, there are no callers for this at all.
Okay, then I will make a motion.
John, may I just?
Oh, yeah,
add-
Britton, go ahead. I'm sorry, I was going to say, unless you had a comment. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add two final comments about the
Yeah.
shed location.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into whether the CO issue, but that was the reason it was put there was because it was covered under the CO. If it moves back to the location where the planning department put it, it really is impactful in two ways. One, you're looking at it from the front yard, which they're never really pretty things to look at. And two, they're the 47 square foot addition that they're putting onto the house so they can have a nice kitchen with glass looking out into their yard will now look directly at the shed location as proposed.
Mhm.
That's aesthetic. And secondly, and lastly is there's a 50-foot tall tree right in the location where that footprint would be that would have to be cut down. So I just don't think it's a better location than the one we proposed.
Thank you, Britton. I think there is a character of the neighborhood issue there. So thank you for that comment. Any other comments before I close this out, board members or Tyler or Britton? We all good?
I just want to say,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, that I think that in the March 11th letter from you, Britton, you've already made that argument you just made to us. Do we have that? Does that line up with what you just said? If the shed was to be moved, it would be an unreasonable request of the applicant because it would put it directly in front of the sliding doors.
Mhm.
Door. Is that correct? I mean, you've already made that argument to us.
No, that letter's in response.
That's in relation to the deck.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah,
new testimony that I just gave you for the shed.
right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Okay, with regard to William and Christa Beckert, I make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing and leave the written record open for 2 weeks after the transcript of this public hearing is posted on the town's website. Do I have a second?
Second. Concur.
Concur.
I'll concur.
Okay, thank you all. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Britton and
Good
Mr.
evening.
Beckert and Tyler for your work on this. Thank you all. Okay, we'll move along. Our third public hearing is Kathleen Langen is the applicant, and the lot size and location is 10,000 square feet at 1843 Montauk Highway in Amagansett, tax map number 300-131-1-1. Description: to demolish the current improvements and construct a two-story, 2,420 square foot residence, 60 square feet of covered porch, 600 square feet of decking, sanitary system, 140 square feet of shed and driveway within the town's jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. Excuse me. The relief sought here is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20, variances from 255-4-30 minimum wetland setbacks of the town code and any other relief necessary. The following variances requested. 1, a 9.5-foot variance is required to install the sanitary system 140.5 feet for the wetlands, where a 150-foot setback is required. This is in a B residence zone. Flood zone here is AE flood zone, elevation 10. And the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
We have an affidavit that the mailing was done on the 5th day of March, and that the posting was done on the 5th day of March. The paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you, council. Okay, this is in my Amagansett district, and I did a field report. This is from the highway, Montauk Highway. We're out on that big stretch, out in, as we come through the stretch, as we know, and behind the house is the Long Island Railroad tracks. So it was properly posted. This would be, again, you see the residence, and it has some that lower area down there. And then there's a retained area on the left of the photo with you see the retaining walls and the steps and the deck up on top there. Next photo, Tyler, please. Is this Tyler helping me out still? I think it is.
Michael.
Oh,
Michael,
it's Michael. I'm sorry, but this is Michael's. Yes, thank you. Michael's here. Yeah. Apologies, Michael. And thanks for your help here. So now I have turned the camera towards Montauk, just to give you, we all know this. This was before us before, so you've seen these pictures before at another site visit, just to give you a character of the neighborhood, what we see across the street there. Next, please, Michael. Now I've turned and looked more towards the west. It's a little more open view across the street there. Excuse me. Next shot, please, Michael. Now I've spun around from where I was there and just give you an angular shot of the house in that retained area there and the deck on the west side, we'll call it, southwest side, and there, and the gravel kind of parking driveway area there. Next, please. Now I walked up along what we'll call the, let's call it the west side of the property line, and just to give you a sense of this beautiful natural dune land that is right there. And actually, it's fortunately it hasn't. It looks like has not been disturbed, which is wonderful. You can even see the train tracks in the back of the photo under that tree, under that evergreen. You see those tracks there.
Oh, yeah.
And next photo, please. Oh, I will go back one, Tyler. There was just to the right of this photo, you can almost see it. There was a public notice there, posted there. Lori can probably explain why that was there, but that was fine. It was another placard. And now from that area on the west, I'm taking a look back at the house and the deck. Next photo, please. I'm walking around the house. Now I've walked around towards the back of the house, and I'm looking to the east, just at the neighboring house, and you see the subject house is on the right side of the photo, and the deck, just to give you a sense of the neighborhood there. Next, please. I think I turned now towards the bay. I climbed up on the deck here, actually. Spectacular view, as you can see, out of Napeak Bay there across the tracks, and the meadowland and marshland is beautiful. Next, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
before you go past that last
Yeah.
photo, are the wetlands before the railroad tracks or are they after?
Let's see. You know what? I don't know. I don't have the survey in front of me right now.
Mr. Chairman,
I
Mr.
would think-
Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
they are beyond the railroad track.
Yeah.
To that- to there.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
good. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. Next, I thought you just wanted to gaze at my beautiful photograph a little longer, Tim. Next, I turn to the west there, down the tracks there a little bit, and you see just it's beautiful natural land out there. I think that's the last one, Michael.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great.
Chairman, I believe that that dune land is
Yeah.
part of the property. It's that Shawnee Street that's referenced, that paper road.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
That's why the notice board is on that side. There's a
I
paper
see.
road to the west.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have the agent for the applicant is here, I believe. Lori's here with us, right?
I am. Hello.
Good evening, Lori. I'll swear you in and then we can get going. If you raise your right hand, please, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Excellent. Good evening again, and take it away, Lori.
Thank you. So this is an application for a natural resources special permit and a minor variance for the IAOWTS. As you may recall from our previous application, which was denied in April of last year, Kathleen Langen has been an owner of the property since 1977. The existing house was originally a fisherman's shack that was moved from Montauk in the 1950s and placed on a foundation. The first certificate of occupancy was issued in 1969. The owner looked into adding a second story to this existing house, but was advised that it wasn't feasible as the house was falling apart. The proposed work includes demolition of the existing house, a one-story residence, redevelopment of the property with a 4-bedroom, 2-story residence, covered porch, decking, and a shed. The substandard septic system will be replaced with an IAOWTS. Also proposed are 2 parking areas and revegetation of portions of the property. A revegetation plan will be submitted for approval as a condition of the NRSP. This property is not in the Harbor Protection Overlay District. The rear property line borders the railroad tracks, and Shawnee Street, a paper road, lies to the west. To the west of Shawnee Street is a vacant state-owned property, which is unlikely to ever be developed. There is a single-family dwelling to the east, and the owners of that property have written a letter in support of this application, which I did submit for the record, and I hope you saw. Otherwise, I'll read it into the record.
No, we saw it.
Yeah.
Got
You
it.
got it, great.
Yeah.
So the wetlands areas are to the north on the other side of the railroad tracks and to the east approximately 90 feet from the subject property line. As noted in the TAM, the project has been scaled down from the denial last year. Lot coverage and total lot coverage have both decreased by 80 square feet. GFA has been decreased by 360 square feet and clearing has been reduced by 340 square feet. The house will have 4 bedrooms, 1 more bedroom than what is presently there. Lot coverage will only be 420 square feet more than what presently exists. Total lot coverage will only be 660 square feet more than what presently exists. Clearing will be 1,400 square feet more, but still 2,200 under the 10,000 square feet allowed. The GFA will be 1,250 square feet more than what presently exists, simply due to the fact that this is a 2-story house. The proposed work conforms with the standards required for issuance of an NRSP. The wetlands to the northeast, as I said, are 90 feet away, and the wetlands up to the north, separated by the railroad. The house will be equipped with gutters, leaders, and dry wells. The parking areas will be pervious quartz gravel. All of the recommended project conditions in the TAM will be adhered to. A 2-story house with 2,420 square feet of gross floor area is not unreasonable and is under the allowable 2,600 GFA. The size and elevations of the proposed house are also in keeping and compatible with both the neighborhood and the site. The proposed use will not prevent the orderly or reasonable use of adjacent properties, and the lot area is clearly sufficient for the proposed work. The 2 proposed improved The two proposed improvements closest to the wetlands are the shed and the decking, neither of which will have any impact on the environment whatsoever, and also do not require any variances. Upgrading the sanitary system alone is invaluable in terms of protecting the environment. The New York State DEC issued a letter of non-jurisdiction in 2019, stating that they determined the entire above referenced property is landward of a functional man-made structure, railroad, greater than 100 feet in length, and as such, no permit was required. A copy of that letter was submitted to the board in earlier this month. And the only outstanding item required by the health department is the natural resource special permit and variance. I'll make myself available for any questions.
I'm looking at the, thank you, Lori. I'm looking at the plans here. I see this is a modular house, correct?
Correct?
Yeah, is this actually what the house is going to look like? What we're looking at here? These elevations, is that?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I'm good for now. Board members, any questions right now from you, others?
No, I'm good.
Nope.
what's the area of the potential re-veg?
You know what?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna pull out here.
Okay, so if you take, I'm looking at the survey, and that's the only way I'm gonna be able to determine this. So,
Arrows.
Yeah, it's unclear. It's to make sure it's up to the clearing line? Or,
yeah,
Correct.
there's only two areas that are proposed for revegetation. And both of them stray off of the property. They've not told me what the amount is on this survey, and I don't think I can figure it out. Although we are only proposing 7,778 square feet of clearing where 10,000 is allowed. Yeah, so it looks like the existing parking area strays off the property into Shawnee Street to the left. And there's a slight cleared area that abuts the Long Island Railroad property, and they're both going to be revegetated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And now, how are you going to delineate that? Again, how are you going to delineate, especially where there's a pretty serious, infraction that's there now? With
It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy, actually, because we're going to revegetate right up to the cleared area onto our own property.
Yeah, I mean, you have any kind of a fence or a shrubbery so it's not mowed and cleared in the future?
well, there shouldn't be any lawn here.
Yeah, there
shouldn't be
shouldn't
any
be
lawn.
anything here after
Yeah.
revegetation because we have these two parking areas now that are not going to go that far up into the property.
Right.
This is dune vegetation here. I don't think there should be a lawn.
No, I don't mean a lawn. Yeah, I just mean clearing basically, or yeah.
Yeah.
But basically you're saying you're pretty much revegetating right up to the house, Lori, on that side.
I don't know about right up to the house, but definitely up to our property line to take care of the part that was cleared
So
by others.
again, what do you see happening? What do you see that being? As Roy says, we don't want lawn here. What do you see that surface being between the house and the property line on the west?
Oh, I see what you're asking. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we can continue with the beach vegetation, right?
Yeah,
up to
I think we would all like to see that for sure.
Okay,
I would too.
that's fine.
Where is the clearing line for I see the current clearing line.
It's hard. Well, it goes off the property there, Terry.
In two places.
Yeah, and Michael can probably clarify this when we give Michael, when Michael speaks.
Clearing line for the project to be done. Where's that line?
Yeah, good.
Sorry?
Michael's drawing.
There we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Itself.
Nope, missed one. You didn't go up.
Right, but that's the proposed final limits of clearance.
He's showing the proposed.
Oh,
Final.
great. I got you. Okay. mhm.
I think we should tighten up that west side a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I was wondering, there's two large pervious driveway areas. I was wondering how necessary the west side one is, or if it's going to exist, if it is approved, to have revegetation behind that going all the way up.
yeah, I agree. I think we talked about the beach grass. I think, Lori, we'd probably like to see everything that's inside that yellow line to be either, I mean, I'm not trying to, negotiate here, but it just seems like and it seems like it should be a beach grass, filling in those voids between the house and that clearing line.
The beautiful dune over there that's.
I know.
on that paper.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's spectacular.
It's very pretty. And her deck's going to be facing that, so she'll get to enjoy it and her newly revegetated area.
Exactly.
Okay.
If this gets approved.
If it's approved.
Right.
I didn't really.
Okay, can we hear from Michael?
Yeah, let's do. Michael, if you please. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening.
Good evening, Michael Oswego. Thanks. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thanks, Michael. Go ahead.
Board members, as you may remember, this was an application or a property we've seen in the past for a bit more of an aggressive redevelopment, including a two-story residence that needed a GFA variance, decking that needed wetland setback variances, front yard variances from Shawnee Street over here. They appear to have taken into consideration the board's determination from April of this past year, where that project was denied, and scaled it back to meet many of the zoning parameters, and probably the one that the board, I believe, had the biggest concern with was the GFA request. It's still pretty significant increase, but it does meet the zoning calculations for this lot. This lot is located just as you start to enter the Montauk-on-the-Sea subdivision on the north side of Montauk Highway, and backs up to, just past the railroad to probably one of the most beautiful areas in town, the Napeague Harbor. So preserving and maintaining the beach vegetation and character of this area is of the utmost importance. Regarding the clearing that we were talking about, it would be, and it's written into the assessment that the revegetation would be for these areas of encroachment where this lawn has established, or at least there's been attempts to establish a lawn, and the beach vegetation has been cleared. So there would be, that would clean it up a little bit. Within that clearing line that I had up before, it is in one of the conditions in the assessment that it would be revegetated with beach grass. They wanted a walking area or something. We would allow for bare sand in that area, but beach grass would be the probably most appropriate. We wouldn't necessarily have a concern with it being mowed. It's not an issue historically in the town. Once these areas are established, it's a fairly, low grass, so it tends to kind of take over these situations and really establish and create some good habitat. I did point out in the assessment that it was noticed for a variance for the sanitary system. As you can see here, that measurement for the 140.5 is measured to the expansion galley. Traditionally, the town measures to the actual leaching facilities that are going in. These appear to, or scale to, at the very least, to be about 150. So it's borderline whether or not, a variance is required. At any rate, it was noticed for the 140.5 feet, should it ever be, necessary. So, our largest talking point on this is really weighing it against the board's previous denial and seeing whether or not the board feels that now it meets the standards for the request, granting for the natural resource special permit and the sanitary system. And with that, if the board has any questions, I'm available.
I'd like to ask Michael, if I may, Mr. Chair, if I can go
Sure.
first.
Of
I'd like
course.
to ask, in reference to this letter that was received by the applicant June 24th, 2019 from the New York State DEC. It was read into the record a little while ago by Ms. Wilshire. I'm wondering if an interpretation on the part of our planning board, you might be able to answer that tonight. where they clearly state that the railroad is a man-made structure that acts as a bulkhead, and it extends far enough from the property to separate this property effectively from the wetlands. And we talk about this setback. What effect does that have on our thinking, that the railway actually creates a bridge or a wall that would not allow runoff to go that far? What's the argument for still continuing to worry about the setback from the wetland from surface water runoff if that railway bed is there? Do we have a position? Have the planning department looked at this before on other sites or other projects?
Generally, in short, yes. There's a man-made structure in between, the subject property and the wetlands. The setbacks are the setbacks by code, regardless of what's in between. There are many small properties through town where you may have, one or two developed properties between the subject parcel and the wetland. Doesn't negate the fact that we need to mitigate any potential environmental concern or really any need. It shouldn't kind of, if there's a structure in between the wetland and any sort of proposal or existing structure, it shouldn't kind of be given a forgiveness because there is a structure there. In our opinion, the setbacks are the setbacks by code, and they should still be observed. And that's a jurisdictional statement made by the DEC.
But are we also concerned about subsurface contamination? It's not just about surface runoff.
Correct. There's some groundwater travel that it probably occurs in the area going from these pocket wetlands to the wetlands on the other side by Napeak Harbor Road in the marsh of Napeak Harbor. So there's always that groundwater travel concern. In the previous hearing, those wetlands that run behind that property, ultimately end in fresh pond. A lot of the wetlands within the area of ditch and south side of the golf course, they end in the south end of Lake Montauk. Development on singular properties can have more global repercussions. And those things need to be taken into consideration when the board weighs these applications.
Thank you, Michael. And Ed, thanks for bringing that up. It's interesting. Interesting point. Thanks, Michael.
Are those tidal wetlands? You mentioned pocket wetland.
Along the railway, there are a number of little pocket freshwater wetlands, especially on this south side of the railway. And then it transitions to more of a tidal wetland marsh as it transitions towards Napeak Harbor. Arguably on the other side of the railway are more tidal wetlands.
Okay.
But there are areas that appear to be more freshwater wetlands on the south side of the railway.
Any other questions from Michael, board members?
Nope.
Hey. Lori, any final comment?
Nope, it's all pretty
Okay.
clear.
Okay, I will go ahead and close this out then. Excuse me. With regard to Kathleen Langen at 1843 Montauk Highway in Amagansett, tax map number 300-131-1-1, I make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing and to leave open the written record until 2 weeks after the transcript of this public hearing is posted on the town website.
Second.
I'll concur on her second.
I'll concur.
And okay, thank you all. And Lori, thank you. And Michael, thank you for your work on this.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on. With regard to administrative applications is next, item 4 on our agenda, the work session. We have Beckert Land Trust at 108 Wainscott Stone Road, Wainscott, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-197-7-19 to demolish the upland structures and sanitary system. And Michael, you want to walk us through this briefly, please?
Sure, board members, let me just share my screen again. This is an application brought to us on behalf of Beckert Land Trust, who appears to have purchased this property. The board may recognize it. It's something we drive past fairly regularly out here. It's the Il Molino, or currently labeled the Il Molino restaurant, just at the intersection of Wainscott Stone Road and Montauk Highway. The application, as it is right now, is to demolish the existing residence, abandon the sanitary, and cut back or remove the asphalt at this time. And that's really the nuts and bolts of it. It's fairly straightforward. To demo the resident, or not the resident, the restaurant. It's currently, in parts, there are improvements that are singular feet from the wetlands.
Michael, let me ask you, I'm just curious, is there anything as far as a revet, what I believe that's hard, super hard packed gravel parking out that we're looking at, correct? Is there anything to chop that up and re-veg it in some way or fashion?
It's my understanding, and I'm pinch hitting for Brian. It's my understanding that at this time, the only there may be future applications on this lot, but at this time, the only application, or that they're going forward with in order to get started on it while they contemplate what they may do in the future, is the demolition. So there will be an application in the near future. So the board will likely see this again in the coming year or so.
Oh, I'm in favor of this one. I'm telling you, this is like a zero setback, zero distance right to Georgia Pond. This has always been, so environmentally, man, I'm way behind this one.
Yeah, I'm sure. And this is in Tim's district.
It's really sensitive. So this is a dead out win.
Yeah, it sure is.
I'm sorry, who's the owner, Michael?
Currently, I believe Peconic Land Trust purchased the property.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, this
Michael,
is one.
can I just ask if a demolition permit is to be awarded them here to take down this property, you would be providing the construction protocol for protecting protective fences and any other protocols you thought necessary on this?
Yes,
site?
I believe there may actually be one in the file already, with kind of a demo plan at the moment. In terms of installing sediment control and project limiting and how they're going to abandon the sanitary. I believe that's all in the file at the moment.
Yeah. Well, as Vice Chair has mentioned, and I think Brennan, this is practically in the water, this place, so the demolition of it will have to take a certain amount of care.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. I would agree. I was just going to mention the fence issue. You don't want this stuff falling into the pond, but Michael, we'll trust that you'll take care of all that with the administrative work you'll be doing on this. This is in Board Member Brenneman's Wainscott District. Tim, you want to make a motion, please?
Sure. So in the matter of Peconic Land Trust 108 Wainscott, Stone Road, Wainscott, tax map number 300-197-7-19. I make a motion to approve this application administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I'll concur.
Thank you.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Michael. This is a good one.
Yep.
Okay, next we go on to 39 Hoppin Avenue LLC at 39 Hoppin Avenue, Montauk, tax map number 300-31-2-2. And this is regarding new information that was submitted to the board for review from the applicant and board members. You saw there was a letter submitted from David Rhodes, the engineer, with regard to the drainage. And before we get going, I'd just like to make a suggestion for the board that not only do we table this, because you recall this was a very sensitive issue when we saw it, and the issue of drainage and the grade and what's occurred there in the sanitary system. And I feel, because I'm just concerned with the neighbor, we did get a report from David Rhodes. It did really not offer any mitigation or alternatives or, what could possibly be done. It basically said that it wasn't a problem. And I would put forth to the board that we not only table this, but we consider a public hearing and consider having the town's engineer, I believe it's the Rainier Group, Vincent Gaudiello, PE, is the engineer, and And personally, I would like to see him on behalf of this board take a look at this situation and see what he would recommend as a possible way to rectify or to deal with this issue.
Chair, just,
Yes.
I don't think there's a way to have a public hearing on this. I think
Okay.
that this is up for a C of O, correct?
Right, it was for a C of O.
Yeah,
And I think we should talk about this a little bit. Can't we talk
Yeah.
about it?
sure. Nancy Lynn, thank you for that. I'll defer. I'll open it up to comments. Terry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I read everything and my initial reaction several times, because I go back and forth on it, was that, they seem to address the issues with the diagrams of the drawings and the survey that the existing draining basins from 2016 that they sent us this, and the Hoppin Avenue, the drawings that Joel Halsey had sent us from TF Engineering. However, in the cover letter, it does say they understand the topography as it exists today did not match the topography on our survey for the ZBA determination. And additionally, there were some of in the TF Engineering report, I guess there were some adjectives and adverbs that bothered me a bit, saying that the proposed septic system is set a little higher than the original ground along the ridge line along the site is in the general location as it was in the existing conditions, and similar things to that. That their opinion is that the grading required did not significantly change the local or regional surface flow patterns. But, in the survey, the as-built survey that they submitted, it does show the septic, that septic covers at a 9-foot topology, and I believe originally it was at 7. So I too am in favor of, I didn't know we had a town engineer anymore. When did we
Yeah, we
get?
have one. We have one of council. We have one.
We are under contract with to provide the services, engineering services for the town. So there's not a one on staff, but we still contract for engineering services.
Okay.
Council, I'll just jump back just for a second, Terry.
That I would like to have the town engineer evaluate this and provide any other additional information. I don't know about a hearing. I don't know that we need a hearing.
Yeah, I kind of miss, let me just jump back for a second, Terry, and council, thank you. Yeah, I kind of said, I was thinking if we would need a hearing in order to do that, but I agree. I don't feel we need a public hearing. I just want the format whereby we retain the engineer to take a look at this on the town's behalf.
Well, the board has the authority to engage any experts that they need in order to do their job, whether it's evaluating an application or evaluating whether or not the application has been complied with, or the conditions complied with, or it has followed or been done in the manner that it was approved. So that that's certainly within the realm of your authority to do in order to determine whether or not this is ready for a C of O. The question is, was it constructed consistent with the approval that the board gave? And I think that you raised some concerns, and I think we need to be specific in crafting what the concerns are that we're referring to the engineer. And perhaps the planning department could provide, some sort of written document for the board to look over, to review, to say, yes, this is what our concerns are. And then have that referred then to an engineer to use these, compare all of the information that's there, do a site visit, look at the engineering documents that were submitted by the applicant, and determine if this was done. Obviously it's never exactly. There's even when measurements, there's a little bit of variance is always anticipated. However, is it is it different enough that there are concerns about the manner in which it was constructed?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy Lynn. I was going to say the same thing in Avenue, whereby this is Tyler Borsak's application, that Tyler could go back and really scrutinize what was approved, what we have here. And again, I agree, Nancy Lynn, that would be great if he could write a memo to the board, lay out all these issues. And as you say, that is what we would end up forwarding to the engineer, and with a request to take a look at all of these issues.
Okay, now, well, there was a letter from the board and signed by the chair and written out to the applicants January 15th when this first came up.
Yeah.
With our concerns, and I think it lays out pretty specifically which conditions weren't met. I don't know that we need to go through that same thing again. Member Johan and myself, we went out there, we looked at the site, we agreed that there were concerns.
I wouldn't mind seeing adding to that memo, just if Tyler were to go back and
I would like a last cursory look at it.
Yeah, just to for every detail of what was approved and what actually was done. But I agree, Terry, but it could just be to elaborate and add on to that memo, another version of it.
And
Okay, but I think that's what the engineer should, okay, go ahead. Someone else speak.
If I could jump in.
Yeah, please.
Now that we have an as-built survey, there are other issues on the property now that we now know about. The deck is too close to the side yard setback. It wasn't built according to what they were approved as. The driveway is also different. So there are also other issues that we couldn't have known without an as-built survey.
I was wondering. We were wondering about that
they would need new variances for the deck as it was built.
Yeah, that's
distance to wetland and distance to the side yard lot line. So
I agree, Tyler. Thank you for looking into that, because we were discussing that earlier. That side yard deck, and it sounds like you found out that it was not built for approval, correct, Tyler?
And you can see the let me pull up the approved survey as well.
Yeah.
You can see that deck here. Obviously, it's a different shape, but it's 11 feet from the side yard in this, and then like 6 point something. This.
Unbelievable.
So it's smaller overall, but it doesn't meet side yard setbacks. It's closer to wetlands. The driveway is different. There's a shed underneath the deck, which the board never approved. The coverage numbers are both up, both total coverage and building coverage are both higher. So there are issues for certain.
So council, thank you, Tyler. I don't mean to interrupt, but you can continue, but I just want to say, council, what this is really going to be have to come back to us with these other variances, correct?
Well, if basically what it would be determined is that, what needs to be addressed. It's not ready for a C of O, but the question becomes, is it just coming back for variances for the side yard for the deck, or do we have some significant elevation issues, and so that those are addressed as well? There's no point in picking at it bit by bit and saying, okay, get your variance for the side yard, but we still now have drainage issues because you changed the topography.
Right.
It would probably be best to have everything on the table at one time, and then whatever they need to do would have to be addressed in their rehearing to accept it as built, or as built plus additional conditions or additional remedial work that would need to be done in order to accept it as built.
So you're suggesting that this would come back as another application,
unless they want to cut back the deck and build it the way it was approved, they certainly have that option. But they can't just leave the deck with it needing a variance that it never got.
But in all, I think we're right in our steps of action is to go to planning and then go for the engineer's review, right, John?
I think
and then whatever happens after that has to happen.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Let's get the proper analysis, because we're going to want that no matter what. I think we all agree, correct?
So then we'd like planning to add to the concerns we had in the initial letter from January.
Exactly.
Correct.
And then submit that to the town engineer.
Right. And then when we get all that back, we'll have the whole package, and then it goes back out to the applicant, a letter saying, here's what we've come up, and then it's back in their court to deal with it.
Okay, and anybody else have any more comments?
I do. I do have a comment, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. I'd like to comment on the engineering report that we received from TF Engineering. I spent some time looking at this drawing. There is a survey there that's been notated by the engineering firm showing us a ridge line and water moves from one side of the ridge line in a westerly direction and the other in an easterly direction. That's the drawing there. And it shows topo lines, a 7-foot line that's critical in understanding how the water flows. And all of the analysis is being done on the property in question, the wetland. The property in question is 39, the wetland, which is to the west, and 37, which is the property that has the danger of flooding, which is to the east. But there's very little discussion here and comment about the properties that are on Agnew, which we all noted earlier are sit at a higher elevation. So there's quite a bit of water flows from, and it's mentioned in the report, from 4 properties on Agnew down to this point. For me, I spent some time looking at it to fully understand the impact of what we have by the change in elevation in the septic. You really have to know what the corollary, the surrounding elevations are. So for me, later on, when we have our town engineer look at it, I would like to know more about what's going on the lands that are property that face Agnew, because that has an effect on whether or not we can ever move the water. If you think about it, if the elevations are at 8 or 8.6 and we're dealing with a 7, it has an effect on whether or not where it's going to puddle and where it can go. This is difficult under any circumstances, but it's going to be really hard to understand unless you have a fuller impact on what's going on the properties. So I wouldn't be in a position to say much about this at all, just looking at the property, because that ridge now has a house on it and we've changed the topography somewhat significantly, especially with the septic. So I'm in favor of everything that's been said about having another hearing, but along the lines of being specific, I would have specific interest in my own to know a little more about the surrounding topography in order to make a proper analysis of what's going on here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Ed. Thank you for that. And I imagine the engineer would agree with you once he got into it. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm sure, board, we all agree with Ed?
Yep.
We do.
Thanks, Ed. Okay. So let's see. Council, what do we do here? Do we don't need any kind of motion or anything. We just.
No, you're going to.
Tyler's going to do his narrative. Right. Go ahead, Council. Go ahead, please.
You're going to table the decision as to whether or not this is ready for a C of O until you get further information. And the first step is for Tyler to provide the board more detail as to what you're looking for an engineer to comment on. And then once you can bring that back to the next meeting when that's done, and then send that off to the engineer. When you have that information back, then it can be put back on an agenda to discuss what, if any, issues need to be addressed before you can go back to determining the question of whether or not it's ready for a C of O.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. I think we all agree with that, right, board members?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Tyler, for your work on this and for your future work on this. Okay, we'll move along here now. We have let's see, we have extensions of time, but we'll jump down to those. Let's just jump real quickly. Next, we have the extensions of time are down by the resolution, so we'll skip that for now. Let's do the minutes. I've taken a look at the draft minutes from March 9th, and they look fine to me. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I noticed one thing on the March 9th minutes. There's one of the seconds in for the March 2nd meeting. Oh God, I got to look at it again. Was missing who seconded.
And that was for the March 2nd.
Well, it was in the March 9th minutes.
Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah, of course.
Second or something was missing who seconded.
Oh, okay.
That just needs to be corrected and we can approve them.
Can we approve that as amended? Do we call which one that was and who seconded it? Seconded that? Okay.
Well, whoever, I don't know.
Why don't we just
I
take,
made the motion, so I didn't second it.
I move we table it for a week until we
let's
get.
table it for a week. Yeah, and if that could get corrected. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Terry. Okay, let's move down to the resolutions, item 6. These are extensions of time we have that have been drafted, written. We have Gregory Zorko at 11 Shore Drive West in Amagansett, tax map number 300-108-2-6. This is in my district, and I make a motion to approve this extension of time.
Second.
Concur.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Capio at 59 Seaside Avenue in Montauk, tax map number 300-32-4-24. Terry, was this you?
Well, whatever.
Yeah, you want to make a motion, Terry?
No, also for Capio,
Yeah.
59 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, tax map 300-032-04-24. Make a motion to approve the extension of time.
Second. Concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Terry. Next, we have Francis Hauser at 29 South Ferncroft Place in Montauk, tax map number 300-28-3-48. A resolution. Do you want to take this, Terry, if you please?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that one, I just didn't get my, wasn't on my, wait a minute. Okay. Yes, okay, this is for Francis Hauser.
Yep.
At 29 South Cross, Ferncroft, right? In Montauk.
Yep.
300-28-3-48. Make a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
And I concur. Thank you, Terry. Next, we have Donald Leonard at 93 Gerard Drive in Springs, tax map number 300-41-2-7.1. Vice Chair Deline, you want to take this one, please, in your district?
Sure. And this was a natural resources, no variance approval, and it was unanimous. So I make a motion to accept to approve the application of Donald Leonard, 93 Gerard Drive in Springs, Suffolk tax map number 300-41-02-7.1 as written.
Second.
Concur.
I'll
And I
concur.
concur, and I concur as well. Okay, thank you all. Council, anything else? Are we good?
We're good. The other two that you decided last week will be ready for next Tuesday's meeting.
Thanks for all your work, Nancy Lynn. Appreciate it. Vice Chair Deline, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals hearing for Tuesday, March 16th at 8:32 p.m.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
And I concur. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
LTV Planning Department, all of you, Nancy Lynn, thank you all. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.